undaunted, undaunted, undaunted,
겁내지 않는, 기가 꺾이지 않는.
undergoing the huge loss of lives due to the savage storms. The exploration team remained undaunted, unafraid, unflinching. Precedence, precedence, precedence.
우선권, 선행, 우위.
Most emergency evacuation plans state that precedence must be given to the injured. Solemnity, solemnity, solemnity.
엄숙함, 장엄함.
Others view bebop as jazz's ultimate dead end, the style that instituted solemnity and elitism within the jazz community. Curtailment, curtailment, curtailment.
축소, 삭감, 단축.
You have submitted to a curtailment of private liberty in order to enjoy a social order which makes your liberty a reality. Cutback, lessening, reduction. Indentured, indentured, indentured.
고용 계약을 맺은.
From 1879 to 1916 Indians came as indentured laborers to work on the sugar plantations. Institutionalize, institutionalize, institutionalize.
제도화하다.
This first culture war was mostly fought over issues of religious faith and values, such as whether creationism was a viable alternative to the theory of biological evolution and whether limits should be placed on institutionalizing Christian values in the public sphere. Go the full distance. Go the full distance. Go the full distance.
끝까지 해내다, 끝까지 가다.
Courageous people have big hearts. They go the full distance for what they believe in, despite the risks. Settlement, settlement, settlement.
정착, 정주.
Values are beliefs held in common by members of a group. They often come from shared experiences. For example, some historians assert that the settlement of the American West in the 19th century shaped many American values. Oust, oust, oust.
쫓아내다, 추방하다.
When Noel Quinn took over as interim chief executive of HSBC from John Flint, ousted by the board in August, analysts expected significant changes in the organization. Expel. Would-be, would-be, would-be.
지망에 누가 되려고 하는.
If everyone who wanted to migrate were allowed to do so, the world would be twice as rich. Yet, this vast gain cannot be realized because most would-be migrants are forced to stay where they are. Remorse, remorse, remorse.
후회.
Feelings of utter guilt and remorse pervaded my body. Contrition, penitence, repentance. Vernacular, vernacular, vernacular.
방언.
You can read the works of, say, Dostoevsky, Flaubert, or Mann in translation. But as everyone knows, something is always missing, chiefly the sense of place. That is, the specificity of the vernacular of which particular cultures are made. Derivative, derivative, derivative.
파생물, 파생된 것.
That new artwork could be an unauthorized derivative, which constitutes an infringement. Cardinal, cardinal, cardinal.
가장 중요한, 기본적인.
As a salesman, your cardinal rule is to do everything you can to satisfy the customer. Manifestation. Manifestation. Manifestation.
모습을 드러냄, 명시.
Its latest manifestation is online weight management sites. Chivy. Chivy. Chivy.
성가시게 하다, 괴롭히다.
Other studies of weight loss programs have suggested that having the support or chivying of friends helps people stick to their diets and exercise regimes. Polymath. Polymath. Polymath.
박식가, 박식한 사람.
In 1874, Francis Galton, a British polymath, analyzed a sample of English scientists and found the vast majority to be firstborn sons. Moot. Moot. Moot.
논의의 여지가 있는, 미해결해.
It is, nevertheless, quite a small difference, and whether it is enough to account for Galton's original observation is moot. Brazenly. Brazenly. Brazenly.
천연덕스럽게, 뻔뻔하게.
Applied mathematicians and physicists have known this for a long time, but it was only in the second half of the 20th century that economists brazenly adopted that research tactic. Euphonious. Euphonious. Euphonious.
듣기 좋은, 조화된.
By 1891, artists on Paris's Inside Loop were talking quite a lot about Paul Gauguin, a 43-year-old former stockbroker who had left Job and family to commit himself to a euphonious ideal of the artistic life. Mellifluous. Dulcet. Deplorable. Deplorable. Deplorable.
비참한, 통탄할 만한.
Gauguin spent his final years in deplorable conditions in the South Pacific. Finicky. Finicky. Finicky.
까다로운, 세심한 주의가 필요한.
It was later learned that the finicky insects are attracted not by some instinctive knowledge of the particular plants, but by a specific chemical or combination of chemicals linked to each. Fastidious. Finical. Fussy. Pungent. Pungent. Pungent.
자극적인, 매운.
The reason is that nasturtium leaves possess a pungent oil that smells exactly like the oil contained in the leaves of the cabbage family. Somnolent. Somnolent. Somnolent.
나른하게 만드는, 졸리는.
His novel is weirdly somnolent given how portentously it primes us for danger, for the burning of mosques and blood in the streets. Soporific. Languid. Underpin. Underpin. Underpin.
뒷받침하다, 떠받치다.
The better we understand the biochemical mechanisms that underpin human emotions, desires, and choices, the better computers can become in analyzing human behavior. Mantra. Mantra. Mantra.
주문, 진언.
Many capitalists keep repeating the mantra of free markets and economic growth. Impecunious. Impecunious. Impecunious.
가난한, 궁핍한.
An impecunious invalid surrounded by a loving spouse, a devoted family, and a warm community may well feel better than an alienated billionaire. Penurious. Impoverished. Penniless. Egocentric. Egocentric. Egocentric.
자기중심적인, 이기적인.
Because of the egocentric nature of these types of friendships, Aristotle regarded them as imperfect ones. Self-centered. Selfish. Means. Means. Means.
수단, 방법.
Plants are immobile, but mechanisms have evolved by natural selection that enable them to adjust to a wide range of environmental circumstances by developmental or physiological means. Breakthrough. Breakthrough. Breakthrough.
획기적 발전, 진전.
Adapting these initiatives to support international efforts to restore whale populations could lead to a breakthrough in the fight against climate change. Leap. Progress. Far-reaching. Far-reaching. Far-reaching.
효과, 영향 등이 광범위한.
Wars in distant lands often have surprising and far-reaching effects. Extensive. Widespread. Looming. Looming. Looming.
임박한, 다가오는.
Markets took a tumble yesterday as investors were spooked by looming threats of strict export controls on key technologies. Hodgepodge. Hodgepodge. Hodgepodge.
뒤죽박죽 섞인 것.
With nary a serviceable machine to be found, the engineer set to work cobbling Tokthar, a makeshift unit, out of a hodgepodge of functional components she scrounged from the inoperable devices. Disrupt. Disrupt. Disrupt.
혼란스럽게 하다, 방해하다.
Climate change now impacts each and every single country on each continent, affecting the lives for individuals and communities, as well as disrupting national economies. Mitigate. Mitigate. Mitigate.
완화하다, 누그러뜨리다.
The failure to mitigate and adapt to climate change is among the biggest global risks for our planet, with significant environmental, economic, and health impacts. Alleviate. Ease. Prevarication. Prevarication. Prevarication.
발뺌, 얼버무림, 핑계.
For some people being faced with a difficult situation, prevarication is a go-to response. Laud. Laud. Laud.
칭송하다.
The clamor over the group's second album has precipitated an insatiable fervor for their media, particularly their early recordings, which have been regularly lauded by critics. Empirical. Empirical. Empirical.
경험적인, 실증적인.
Strong empirical studies that investigate the questions are important in informing the current theoretical debate between serial versus parallel word identification during natural sentine reading. Outnumber. Outnumber. Outnumber.
무엇보다 수가 더 많다.
Our intestines are home to an estimated 500 to 1,000 species of bacteria. Their cells outnumber all human cells in the body by a factor of 10. Custody. Custody. Custody.
양육권, 보호관리권.
Custody is the legal right to keep and look after a child, especially the right given to a child's mother or father when they get divorced.